Hello everybody. In the last few months, the cruise line stocks have been really popular and really widely talked about. So I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about Royal Caribbean stock, which is possibly my pick for the cruise lines. Here we're taking a look at Royal Caribbean on Yahoo Finance, and we can see at the beginning of the year it was trading over $130, and then at its low it went down to below $20, which I believe means it was hit even harder than Carnival or Norwegian, and that's partially because Royal Caribbean was a little bit overpriced compared to those stocks. Part of the reason you could think it's overpriced is because there's more growth thought in Royal Caribbean compared to the other two, and it's also a little bit more high end. Here you can see the two ships that are going to be the first and second largest ship in the world that are already starting construction. They may be a little bit hold right now, and those open dates may be pushed out a little bit, but Royal Caribbean is currently planning to be the biggest and making the biggest and best cruise lines that the world has ever seen. And this is a picture of the Symphony of the Seas, which is currently the biggest cruise line, or the biggest cruise ship in the world, which is also owned by Royal Caribbean. So seeing a bit of a trend here. And people will pay a lot extra to be on some of these very biggest ships in the world. And since they're the biggest, they're going to have all kinds of other amenities that the smaller ships either can't afford or don't really have room for. And this thing is just absolutely massive. You can see there's a huge showroom in the back, as well as I'm sure there's one towards the middle or front of the ship, and this thing's got at least 15 floors. It's just absolutely massive. My personal stake in Royal Caribbean is I have a little over 8 shares. That 0.07 shares is because Robinhood actually turned on the reinvestment for the dividend automatically, even though I didn't really want it to, but that's okay. So my average cost is actually about $65, which is really unfortunate because I bought a few shares when it hit 90-something dollars because I had been wanting to invest in it for a while, and I didn't really foresee it dropping nearly as low as it did. So that's why my average cost is still pretty high, but I did get some more shares while the price was still in the 30s. Taking a look at their financials for the last 4 years, we can see that revenues have, as well as earnings, have steadily increased over the last 4 years. Obviously, earnings are going to be negative for 2020 for at least the first 2 quarters, most likely quarter 3 and 4 as well, as they're still having to pay a ton of different expenses for not having their ships operating for a few months. Well, hopefully they're still able to get up to $10 billion in revenue within the next couple of years. Next up, I wanted to talk about some points made by the Bears and the Bulls, given by an analyst at Morningstar. And if you did see my Carnival Cruise Line video that I just posted, this is going to be pretty similar to some of the points I talked about there. The first bullet there is just talking about the rapidly expanding Asia-Pacific market, which largely has not been capitalized yet. And then the second bullet is that if everything that's going on right now recedes really quickly, then the stock should be able to quickly recover, and there is somewhat of a chance, a small chance in my opinion, that Royal Caribbean could go bankrupt, but I think the stock is going to recover. It may be 2 or 3 years before the stock can hit $130 again, but I think it definitely will. And then just this last point is the exact same thing I said for Carnival, that fuel prices are one of cruise lines' biggest expenses. So you've probably heard that oil prices are basically at rock bottom right now. They've come up a little bit, but it's definitely a good thing for cruise lines that they're so low. This first bullet is that discretionary spending from consumers may take a really negative effect on cruise lines, which is not something I really thought about too much, but it's definitely possible. I mean, revenues are definitely going to be hurting for a couple of years to come, especially as people are unsure about the sanitation on the cruise lines, so they've really got to do a lot to increase their brand image. And then just this last point is that there's a lot of volatility in commodity prices right now, especially labor and food, as well as energy. But energy, as I already mentioned, is probably a big plus right now. But for labor, how many of their workers are still going to be around? Are they going to have to pay more to their workers moving forward? Or are they going to be able to replace with the same workers they had before? And then food, a lot of meat, not just in the United States, but all over the world. Meat is getting more and more expensive. So food overall could be more expensive in the coming quarters. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I also made a video on Carnival just yesterday, and I'm probably going to make a video on Norwegian as well, so subscribe to come check that out, and subscribe for more content. Again, thank you so much for watching.